In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about how to move ahead with beauty and proximity, which is basically about advancing in life and not by being the most seen or being the most accessible, but by being intentional about how you show up and who you surround yourself with. And to bring this to life, I'm using Harvey as a case study to illustrate my points. Because whether you love her, admire her, or just don't quite get the hype, one thing's clear: she has elevated her personal brand and cannot be accused of talking too much. In fact, I know when she started doing interviews, there would be comments like, "I've never heard her talk." And she's used her beauty and proximity to move ahead in life. Most of us know who Lori Harvey is, adopted daughter of Steve Harvey, whose last name she has, and he's married to her mom, Marjorie. Lori Harvey has been in the headlines for years. She's done modeling and has a skincare line, but most people began to notice her because of her relationships to men like Michael B. Jordan, Future, and Damson Idris. But what stands out to me isn't who she's been linked to. It's how she handles everything. She rarely says much. She doesn't respond when someone shades her. She lets people talk while she continues living her life. So when I thought about doing this video, I looked at her IG to do this case study. And even on there, her posts are her pictures. And she may comment with an emoji or at most 2 or 3 words. If you looked at a row of her pics on IG right now, you'd see that her captions, for the most part, is one single emoji. She's showing the girlies the power of beauty, which has opened doors for her. So, yes, she has a name, but beyond that, in terms of her last name, even that is about recognition and proximity, Harvey. And that in itself is a masterclass. So let's get into it. The first thing is know your value. Lori carries herself like someone with self-worth. So she doesn't need to respond to the narratives people spin about her. It's only when you know your value, ladies, that you won't let what people say bother you. You won't feel the need to explain things. People try to explain things when they want another person to see them a certain way, and that is exhausting. And you will likely have to keep on doing it. When you know who you are, what someone else thinks, especially if you don't know them, that's their business. Second thing is talk less. One of Lori's greatest strengths is her silence. She's been in multiple relationships that people have talked about, but she's never had to come back years later and explain herself or retract her words because, at that time she had a lot to say after a breakup. And I want you to clock that whatever the red pill guys might say, that silence builds trust with men who she's interacted with in real life. They know that if she's with you, she's not going to share anything embarrassing or dog you out after the breakup. She's going to mind her business and carry on. You'll hear nothing in an interview or an IG caption, nowhere. And that alone gives potential partners who are interested in her confidence. As much as people say this and that on the internet, when a man and woman meet in real life and interact in real life, if that man likes her, it doesn't matter. Other things come into play, including, if he's attracted to the woman, how much he's attracted to the woman, emotions. So the men know that no matter how things play out, their privacy is safe with her. And that's a level of discretion that keeps her attractive, not just romantically, but socially. She says nothing negative about the people she knows. Which leads me to lesson number 3. Build social capital. Social capital is bigger than just who you date. It's your reputation, your network, the relationships you build, and the people in terms of the caliber of people that you have around you. Lori understands proximity, being close to people who are already where she wants to be or on the path she wants to learn from. She also moves across spaces with ease. She befriends people from different races, different industries, different backgrounds. And that's powerful because it gives her multiple perspectives on navigating success. I remember the week school started, I was suddenly in 2 WhatsApp groups for my son's school. Then a parent, I've never met her, she's also white, looking at her profile picture. But anyway, she invited me to another WhatsApp group of moms living in our city. So I accepted the invite, and after she initiated an introduction with the founder of this group, who asked me what grade my child's in, where I lived. Then she was like, oh, we're neighbors because we happen to live on the same street. Anyway, I live in a high-rise, however, she lives in a house nearby. And this again has to do with proximity. Sometimes it's just being in the neighborhood. But anyway, in the WhatsApp group, I tend to skim messages, but what I did notice is how the moms, who are mostly white, based on their profile pics, share tips and information on a daily basis. And there are also subgroups of this group. So it's one thing to only see success through one lens, like if you only have African American friends. But when you're around people from different cultures, you start to understand how success operates in many rooms and how to carry yourself in all of them. That's how you become adaptable. That's how you become someone who can walk into any space. And also regarding like even where you choose to live, your location, even though you may not be able to afford the most expensive place, live on the most expensive street, live in the most expensive apartment building, you could try living close to the neighborhood or choosing an apartment that is near a certain zip code just for proximity, because you never know who you will meet in terms of personally or career-wise. It affects everything, what school your children go to. They even say in terms of your zip code, it affects what offers you get in terms of credit cards and so on, besides your FICO score. Next, focus on yourself and invest in your beauty. Another reason Lori stands out, she takes her beauty seriously, and it shows, and it pays. She invests in her beauty, the gym, skincare, quality products, and a makeup team to have her camera ready before events. She understands that her appearance is part of her brand, and she treats it as such, because it isn't just about, how you look when you were born. You have to also pour into yourself. She was pretty. She's always been pretty. Though I would say years ago she was a couple of pounds heavier and she had the girl next door aura. But that has changed on purpose and is maintained. The clean makeup, the lean body, and more so a socialite aura now. When you look polished and cared for, it shows that you value yourself, and that makes others value you too. And number 5, you've got to present well. Let me share a quick story with you. I was at a beauty event in DC recently, a ribbon cutting, and I saw 2 influencers in the room. I don't follow influencers, I didn't know them, but you can tell because their phones were out in their hands and they were snapping selfies. Still, in person they stood out, but they also looked regular, if you know what I mean. They stood out because I could see that they took time to do their makeup, took time to get their outfit together. Their hair was styled, whether it was a weave or a wig, and their clothes were appropriate for the occasion. So this is in the DC area. It's not LA, so They both had on pants and different tops. So a couple of days later, I saw one of them on Instagram, glammed up at New York Fashion Week, and she looked like a completely different person. In person, we're about the same height, but in her stories, she looked taller, and she also tagged a makeup artist who went to DC Alta to do her makeup. In person, she came across as reserved. On the phone, in terms of in her stories, she looked bolder. And I happened to see her stories because the event I went to, I guess, basically the IG profile followed me. And so I was watching their stories and I saw her stories through that. And the thing is, most people will never see you in real life. They're going off of the image you curate if you're on any social media platform. So that's why presentation matters. You can be regular on the street, but if you know how to present yourself for photos, for events, for social media, you control the narrative. And people respond to the image you put out there, the one they can go back to look at, not the one they casually catch in passing. So yes, in real life, you may look simple, you may walk around all day with your bonnet on at home, but if your digital and public presence is polished, people will not only see you, but see you as someone elevated, if you know what I mean. And that's leverage. Finally, protect your image and play the long game. Lori has had plenty of people create narratives about her, but she never lets those stories stick by reacting to them. Instead, she's playing the long game. She's thinking about her brand years down the line, not just the headline for today, not just people's opinions on who she shouldn't or should have stayed with, and so on. When you steer your own narrative, you know that people are only seeing the short play. And that's even better because you don't want them to know your end game. So how do you take all of this and apply it to your own life? First, take a look at your circle. Who are you around the most? Because proximity matters. Second, decide what you want to share. You don't need to announce every detail about your moves or your plans. And third, invest in yourself. That could be skincare, upgrading your wardrobe, going to the gym, getting in that water in terms of drinking 8 glasses of water or so a day. Those habits of self-care affects how you present yourself, which shapes how people see you. And finally, think long term. Lori Harvey shows that there's power in saying less, focusing on yourself, and keeping people guessing. Don't overshare, invest in yourself, be mindful of who has access to you, and engage with people who are on the path you want to be on if it aligns with who you are. This will help you quietly move ahead. What's one area of your life where you could start talking less and moving with more intention?